Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of En Cama con Manny, el show donde hablamos sin filtros de la vida, pop culture y muchas cosas más. I'm your host Manny, your new internet bestie, aquí comfy con mi pan imaginario y mi special drink, ready to chismear y pasarla bien. So come get comfy, grab your favorite drink and let's get into it. But antes de empezar, quiero recordarles que cada episodio va a tener un prompt que puedes encontrar en mi Instagram story cada miércoles. Así que stay tuned, mándame tu chisme para que lo comente aquí. Okay, so let's get into tea for this episode. And today's episode, the theme will be domestic violence through a child's point of view. And I understand that it may be a dark topic, so just a little trigger warning. If you guys don't feel comfortable with hearing about these topics, please feel free to skip this video. I would suggest watch the other videos and just stay tuned for the next episode. Hoy quiero hablar sobre algo muy personal, lo que viví de niño pasando por violencia doméstica y la separación de mis padres, y cómo eso me hizo en la persona que soy hoy. It's not an easy topic, but I understand that a lot of you guys, or some of you guys, have had these similar experiences and also have witnessed how it feels like to live in that life and go through that experience. And I want you guys to understand that you guys are not alone. Así que esta historia, I hope this touches someone and inspires someone who might be going through that situation. And I hope that it creates a change. I know it will not probably reach a bunch of people because I don't have that much of a following, but I just want it to touch someone and inspire them to leave the situation that they're in, because I know it's hard. And with the fact that we lived through it, me, my mom, and my siblings, the outcome is better. Si esta historia te toca, déjame saber en Instagram, mándame sus historias, sus pensamientos, porque este espacio también es para ti, así que quiero que sepas that you are not alone. Okay, so for this first part, I will talk about domestic violence and the aftermath of the separation. What happens after you guys separate, the process, and how it makes you change as a person. So let's get started. Was there a moment where you realized this is not normal compared to other kids' homes? Yes. So we are Mexican. My dad is a very traditional man, or was during that time, that he was the head of the household. My mom had to stay in line. I had to stay in line. Through that time, it was me and my mom who went through those beatings, through that physical abuse, through those verbal abuse. My younger brothers did witness it, and they at times went through the beatings and the abuse, but it was very rare for them because they were just babies. And it was very hard because I just felt like every time we did something or tried to be kids, we would get beaten up. And for me, it was very hard witnessing how my dad would strike my mom, or how he would throw things at her or abuse her verbally and make her feel like she was worth nothing. And in my case, it was like that too. My mom had it worse. And when I used to play around with kids, it was very rare that we actually got to go out. I used to ask them what life was like at home. For example, like, oh, does your dad hate your mom when she's being bad, or things like that? And they would say no, that their parents are not like that. Their parents are very loving and they talk. That's when I realized it wasn't normal. And it just sucked because I know everything was wrong and it wasn't okay, because when someone hates you, it hurts. Or when someone tells you you're not worth anything, it does something to you that brings your self-esteem down, and it just messes you up. That's how life was at home. It says here, did you ever feel like you had to protect your siblings from seeing too much? Absolutely. So during that time that we were going through that, I would try to distract my brothers as best as I could. For example, I would put TV, I would take them to the other room. When I had a MP3 player that was gifted to me for Christmas by my tia, and I used to put the headphones on them and put the music on blast because they did like the music I listened to, so that's how I kept them distracted. And I hope that they wouldn't listen to those things because I was already used to it, and I felt useless because I couldn't help or protect my mom, and vice versa. When my dad used to hit me, he or strike me or abuse me in any way, it was very hard for her to defend me because she was afraid, and when she did try to calm him down, she would get a beating too. And it was so sad to me, and just remembering it makes me want to tear up. It says here, how did you process things without really understanding? It was really hard for me to understand why my dad was like that. I tried to make a thing like, oh, maybe we're just really bad people. And my dad was right, but we deep down knew that he wasn't. The way I processed it was actually I used to hide from my dad. So a little fact, we used to live a street away from my grandma, and my grandma would babysit us from time to time because there was a period where my dad didn't let my mom work or my mom was in labor. This was before my brother was born. I when she used to take care of me and he used to go pick me up, I remember hiding from him without knowing why. And every time he would come home to my grandma's, he would ask, why do I hide? Que no me va a hacer nada. Pero I think deep down I was scared of my dad. I didn't see him as a loving paternal figure. I saw him, in a way, I saw him like a monster. And when my mom was in the hospital, I was so glad that she wasn't there because what would have happened to her and the new baby, which was my middle brother. And that's how our life was from day to day. There were some good moments, but everything that was good is outshined. I mean, is outshined by the negative parts. So, how did social workers get involved? So, from what I remember, my middle brother went to school one day and they were doing some tests on them during class to see how life was at home, and he was made to play with toy dolls, and they told him, oh, the dad and the mom play house. And it accidentally slipped my brother that my dad hit my mom and he hit me and sometimes him. So they immediately got involved, and they did separate us a few times, but every time that did happen, for some reason, that is her own reasoning, and I don't know, my mom kept coming back. But there was a point during that time where every time the social workers found out, they told my mom, you have two choices. You get back with him, we take your kids away. You leave him, you keep your kids. And also they told her that they would help her out. I think that's why my mom stayed with my dad too, because she had nowhere to go, and to go to my grandma's house, and since they still lived a traditional way, she felt the shame of being a single woman. But when they gave her that ultimatum, my mom chose us, and thanks to her, we're here. It says here, do you remember the day of the separation? Yes, I do. So we planned it like this. My dad was a person who worked from 6 a.m. or 3 a.m. to 7 or 8. During that time, the social workers told my mom that she had to get our clothes ready, whatever it is that we needed, and put them in bags and figure out somewhere to go. There were times where we went to other shelters, but my dad always found us. So this time we actually went to my grandma's house. And when he found out, because he kept calling my mom, he called and called and called, she wouldn't answer. So he knew something was up. And he went to my grandma's, and the police were involved. I don't remember if my grandma was was living there, because she had went back to Mexico during that period. I think she was already in Mexico. But yes, that's how it happened. My dad begged my mom y le lloró mucho que regresara, pero pues mi mamá no lo hizo, y esa vez fue la, la separación oficial. For me, I felt happy, but I loved my dad. I love my dad. And it just hurt because I knew deep down that we would never come back with him. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move to our third section, and this section was one I did not think I was going to include because it does involve other people, but for my better health and for me to heal, I feel like I do have to talk about it, especially since it involved my mom and my brothers. I am wanting to let this go, so I will talk about it, and it's called Family Turning Their Backs. All right, so we were at my grandma's for a certain amount of time, but for certain circumstances that I will not talk about, we got kicked out right away. That exact day, actually within an hour's notice, we were all told to leave in that household. It was my family on my grandma's side who were all living there, and we all had to vacate. And the reasoning is, like I said, I will not talk about. But that exact night, within the hour, we had to figure out where we were going to go. And we did go to a certain Theo's apartment and spend the night there. We did spend, I want to say, a month or two, or we did spend a while there. It was an experience that I really hated going through, because as time went by, we went from one house to another house. And I am thankful that we were offered asylum or a place to stay. Pero our own family gave us malas caras, los trató mal. They would make my brothers feel bad. And some things that got to me were when they were event. Sometimes they had their little chill nights where they would drink and stuff like that. And my mom, it was her time para que se desahogue. And everyone thought that we were asleep. So they would get real and talk about the adult things. But I kept hearing my mom cry and cry and cry because she didn't know what to do. She had 3 children. My dad, during that time, he was not in the picture at all, and we had no way to contact him. So we were on our own. And hearing my mom cry todas esas noches que ella lloró me hizo sentir que estábamos solos completamente. My mom during that time was talking to this guy who sold CDs and DVDs, and he kind of suggested the idea of doing that, but we didn't really know if it was safe. So that's when I decided to start selling them. I think I was in I want to say my 10s, because I don't know the exact age. I may have been 9 or 10. I don't remember, and to be honest, I don't really care to remember. And I started selling CDs during that time. Y me daba vergüenza. After that, we went from one tío to another, and that tío was the biggest that I've ever met. So we went from that tío to my mom's other brother. And going through that with that brother was the worst. We were given malas caras by the wife. We were counted, los contaron la comida que comíamos. They would take advantage of my mom and basically have her do everything for free or for very little pay. I can't get into detail because I don't want drama and I'm trying to let it go. But also, they were the people that at the end talked the most shit about us. And by that time, we were slowly starting to get back on our feet. Selling CDs was a little bit embarrassing for me because I was a very extremely introverted person. I still am. But going to house, de casa en casa, vender CDs, knock on doors, get rejected, say no, I didn't like the idea. And it was very hard because I was giving boxes of CDs, 2 or 3, I want to say, en un diablito muy chiquito and very cheap quality. And I would take my diablito, I would go to house to de casa en casa, apartamentos de 3 pisos. I would go all the way up and then come all the way down by myself. My mom would sell things in yardas, so that's why ella no me pudo acompañar. But I was surprised because I was making money with those sales. So we from the sales and also from my mom selling things en yardas, we were, and she during that time she already had found a job. So we went from that to having our own apartment in that same building, and we were the happiest we could be because we finally had an apartment of our own. Mi mamá just started working. Ella vendía tortillas y yo vendía CDs y DVDs también. Y mis hermanos los cuidaba a veces mi mamá o yo, los doblábamos el turno. That's when my mom and I, during that whole time, me and my mom became a team. It was me and her against the whole world. And that's how I always saw it. In regards to family, a lot of our family members during that time turned their backs on us. No los hablaron. Unos sí los hablaban, pero nomás era para chismear y poner su opinión o su granito de lo que opinaban, que básicamente que mi mamá no estaba haciendo lo que debía de hacer, que mi mamá era una como ellos le decían. Pero ¿saben qué? Lo bueno es que mi mamá, aparte de que sí tuvo que básicamente rogarles para que les den un techo, mi mamá siempre fue una mujer que ella veía las cosas y ella se adaptaba. Ella era una mujer que trabajaba por todo. No teníamos comida, ella averiguaba una manera para encontrar dinero. Siempre estaba así de work. My mom is a emprendedora to the heart. And eso me daba coraje cuando hacían eso, esos familiares. Y mi mamá siempre los callaba porque ella no les pedía. And she proved them wrong. That she was a woman highly capable of overcoming all these circumstances and all these adversities. So, por eso siento que no tengo ninguna compasión con ciertas personas de mi familia, porque durante ese tiempo, de todas las personas que los ayudaron, sí los ayudaron, y no voy a decir que no. De eso sí voy a dar gracias, pero solamente fueron 4 personas que en verdad les importó el bienestar de mi mamá. Y esas 4 personas saben quién son porque yo las quiero mucho y hablo mucho con ellos y yo les enseño respeto. Pero los demás, yo nunca voy a decir que no los voy a perdonar, pero yo no les tengo certain compassion when it comes to their life struggles. Honestamente, no les deseo mal, pero tampoco les deseo lo que pasamos. Bueno, no les deseo mal, solamente quiero decir que no tendría la compasión que ellos quisieran que le tuviéramos, porque cuando nosotros estábamos pasando por esas cosas, ellos nunca los ayudaron. Y honestamente, it might come across as, ay no, qué maduro eres, o ya déjalo ir, o ¿cómo se dice? Olvídate de eso, la vida continúa, pero yo he tratado de seguir adelante y olvidar eso y tenerles compasión y respeto o cariño solo por mi mamá. Pero no, no me nace. Y ahora ni me da la gana saludarlo. Sí, sé que tal vez se vea como un mal educado, pero como le digo a mi mamá, yo te quiero mucho y todo eso, pero no me hagas hablar con gente que no quiero hablar o con la que no puedo ni verlas, porque esa misma gente todavía siguen hablando su misma mierda y yo no voy a saludar a alguien que no me caiga bien. Pero quiero que sepan que mi mamá sí me tocó bien, pero eso le digo a mi mamá, yo no puedo saludar a alguien que me cae mal o que no quiero comunicarme. Honestly, the wound is still open. There is room for forgiveness, but not today. I think I need to heal, and now that I've talked about this, I can probably let some things go. Pero the wound is still open for me, and I still don't want to talk to those family members because I just I want peace. That experience with figuring out how to make money, becoming the right hand of my mom and my mom made me understand that life is not pretty. Also, it made me appreciate my mom even more. I can't say anything bad about that woman. She taught me a lot. And my relationship with her grew into something beautiful. My mom and I did have our struggles because I just wanted to be a kid. And also, I didn't resent her. I was just angry at her because she gave me this responsibility at such a young age. And it did change me, but I appreciate that because if it wasn't for those experiences and if it wasn't for those life lessons and if it wasn't for my mom, I wouldn't be the person that I am today, which I really am thankful for because I could have turned out to be someone else that I would have probably not liked. All right, so we're going to go ahead and finish off with this consejo segment. My only consejo for anyone is to not stay quiet out of fear of shame and that you're alone because you are not. I want to remind you guys that there are domestic violence hotlines, therapy, and community groups that can take you in and help you out get out of this situation. And it's okay if you're still angry or hurt. Healing is not something that will disappear right away. Tristemente hemos visto cómo la violencia termina con los niños o con los padres. Please don't be another caso en las noticias. You can do it, and also please seek help. Y siempre hay una salida y mantente fuerte. Alright everyone, that'll be it for today's episodio. Muchas gracias por escuchar este episodio tan personal de En Cama with Manny. Espero que este episodio les inspire y les recuerde que no están solos. Me doy cuenta que hay cosas que no pude incluir porque pues no son cosas que puedo contar porque no las experiencié yo. Me gustaría tener a mi mamá en un episodio para que ella también cuente su versión y me gustaría que ustedes escucharan lo que ella tiene que decir porque lo que ella tiene que decir es muy inspirante y tristemente no hablé mucho de ella en esta parte, en este episodio porque yo no soy ella y yo no puedo contar una experiencia que no es mía sin autorización mía. So, ojalá un día ella pueda contar su versión y ojalá un día pueda ser entrevistada por mí. Sí quiero tenerla en uno de estos episodios, pero tal vez va a ser un episodio especial o exclusivo. So, tendríamos que ver. And if you liked hanging out conmigo, please give this episode a like, share with your besties, y claro, suscríbete so you don't miss our next chisme session. And remember that el chisme does not stop there. Follow me on my Instagram at Eric Diamandis, where I will be posting a new prompt for new episodes. And remember that the extended uncensored version is available on Spotify, and the video version is exclusively available on YouTube. Love you guys. Hasta la próxima.